training that's totally free. We're going through Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Black Labor White. Sorry, no, sorry, the Black History Reader. That's the one, not Black Labor White Wealth. And actually, I got the book around here. I gotta make sure I find my copy. Hold on. It's somewhere around here. I got so many books around here. I can't remember where I place them. But anyway, I know it's around here somewhere. So anyway, we're gonna cover that tonight, and it's at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So if you haven't registered, you can register. You can either go to blackkeystogreatness.com. That's blackkeystogreatness.com, or you can also text the word greatness to 87948, and you'll get a link to join and to register. And the Powernomics trainings are always a lot of fun, and it gives us an opportunity to really dig in and to understand history and understand how we got to where we are. I think that one of the best ways to really understand economics in America is to understand how America came to be, how America became what it is. You know, where's this come from? Because remember, nothing's new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun, and most of this stuff that you see that is happening around you in terms of what you might consider to be racism or mistreatment or economic disparity really has a historical context. And I think that our lack of ability to conquer these barriers comes from the fact that we don't know where it comes from. We don't know how what the origin story is of this kind of stuff. And so what I learned the most from Dr. Anderson, which is why I just will always honor this guy, is, and I put him right up there with Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, stuff like that, is he helps us understand something that I call the economic theft of integration. And integration, I talk about integration a little bit in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. And one of my core beliefs about integration is that integration itself is not a bad concept. Integration is a type of partnership. And partnerships can be good. Partnerships can be fine. It's just like I don't know. It's like two people carpooling together and deciding, hey, we're going to save gas money and drive each other to work, and so that can be just fine. But the problem though is that partnerships have to have terms of negotiation, and if it's not a fair partnership, then it can become an exploitative partnership. It can become a partnership where one party ends up losing and the other party ends up taking something from the other one. And I would just say to you that in terms of big global thefts, just this epic heist of all time, I would put integration right up there because if you look at the numbers of the trillions of dollars that were lost through integration, you're really talking about a massive amount of wealth that the Black community should have, that we should have in our possession. And it's so vast, it's so pervasive that we don't even know that it's gone. If you're born with nothing, then you think you deserve nothing. If you're born with nothing, you believe that's where you're supposed to be. You believe things are the way that God designed them, and that's just not the case. The way things actually are supposed to be is that if Black people are 13% of the population, we should have 13% of the wealth. Instead of having 13% of the wealth, we have less than one half of 1% of the wealth. If we're 13% of the population, then I should be able to go to a major city like Denver or Chicago or Atlanta or wherever, and 13% of these skyscrapers in downtown Seattle should belong to Black people. But if you go to downtown Seattle, I dare you, I will give anybody in this room $100,000 if you can find one skyscraper in downtown Seattle that's worth over, say, $500 million that's owned by Black people. Just find me one. Just find me one. And I feel kind of nervous making a statement like that, right? Because somebody, if they come back and they show me, it's like, oh man, I now owe you money. So actually, I will say that that's just a joke. I have to say that just in case I'm wrong, because sometimes I can be wrong. But I don't think that I've ever seen a skyscraper worth over $500 million that's owned by Black people. I've seen scenarios where Black people are big faces in high places, but in terms of Black ownership, we just really don't have what we're supposed to have, right? And so really so the thing is though that this kind of talk is seen as radical, is seen as kind of I guess not just radical, but almost like you're being a troublemaker when you talk like this. But the truth is not trouble. What's the real troublemaker is the lie that keeps us from telling the truth. I'm not the troublemaker. for telling the truth. You're the troublemaker for promoting a lie. Do you understand? So in my view, I want to deal with the troublemakers. I want to deal with the nonsense and say, come on, man, this doesn't make any sense. It's not supposed to be like this unless you believe in some sort of inferiority of black people and black families, or that somehow we don't work as hard, or we're not as smart, or we're not as capable. And there are people that believe that. There are people that believe that white people have all the wealth because white people are just more efficient and more intelligent than we are. And that's just simply not true. Now, where I end up challenging black people, see, again, my big dilemma, and I don't know why there's no logical reason why I would take this kind of strategy, but my big dilemma is that I end up upsetting white people and black people. So the only base I have really is intelligent black people. I don't have like a big broad base of black people because I can't go around just telling people what they want to hear, because I think that there are corrections that we need to make. There are improvements we have to make and accountability we have to have. And I can't go around sort of catering and folding to white folks. So if you ever want to know my background and how I became who I am, I grew up as a kid who wasn't accepted by in either group. I went to this school called Kentucky Country Day. My mother, we didn't have a lot of money, but my mother had me take a test to get into this private school in Kentucky. And in fact, I think the tuition at the school is like 25,000 a year or something now. It was a real fancy school for rich kids, and we took this test, and I got this scholarship. I guess because my IQ must have been high or something. I don't know, because it certainly wasn't my grades. My grades were terrible. My grades have been terrible all through elementary school, all through middle school, all through high school. I don't fit well into systems. Systems don't work well for me because I'm the guy that questions the system and says, "What the hell is this? This doesn't make any sense." Right? So maybe that I don't know. I don't know what that is, right? That's consciousness, right? This is what we're training on. This is what we're doing every day because we're talking about economic consciousness, just awareness, right? And the person who's conscious is sometimes going to be the troublemaker because you're looking around saying this don't make no damn sense. Like, wait a minute, why are there bars on this? Why can't I go if I woke up in prison and I'm looking around, I'm gonna be like, well, wait, why is it that the guards can go home every day, but I can't go home? Well, why is it that that there's cars over there on the freeway, but I can't go over there and get in one of those cars and drive away? Where are those people going to? Like, why am I in this cage and why am I eating bad food? And I saw on TV this guy was eating a gourmet meal. How do I get a gourmet meal? Right. So this consciousness. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't have that, right? A lot of us are born in this kind of prison. So anyway, I went to this school when I was 12, and we were shocked that I got in because my grades were so bad. And when kids have bad grades, we think that they're not smart or intelligent, and sometimes your kids may have bad grades because they are smart. And so this is why I encourage you to make sure that you put your child in situations where they're going to be stimulated, where they're going to be educated in the space where there's consequences. Like we do have that Black Business School for Children. We've seen amazing transformations in kids because sometimes your son just may want to go make some money. He may not want to sit around and learn biology or stuff that doesn't matter. So anyway, if you want to learn more, just text the word youth to 87948. If you text youth to 87948, we'll send you some information. But anyway, so I go to the school, Kentucky Country Day. And when I get to the school, it really kind of sucked, to be honest with you. I was the only black kid in the whole seventh grade, and there was a lot of racism, a lot of mistreatment, a lot of just awkwardness. Because when you're 12, you're already trying to figure out who you are, and it was just weird. I'll just say it was weird. It was very uncomfortable, and they made fun of me for being poor and stuff like that. And so I didn't really fit in with the white kids. But then what happens is my mother, who loves me very much, but she's like every other young mother, she's trying to figure it out. So she takes me out of the school and sends me to public school for the eighth grade. So sixth and seventh grade, I did the Lily White private school, where I was getting a good education, even though I made F's and D's on my tests, because the educational standard was so high. I learned a lot. I learned more than the public school kids were learning. So in the eighth grade, she switches me out to public school again. Now I'm around, like black kids from the hood, kids from the projects, stuff like that. I don't know how to deal with that either. I'm like, y'all crazy, man. Like why does everybody want to fight all the time? But wait, or they, you get made fun of because you don't know how to dance or you don't know how to have the right kind of hairstyle or just any little thing. So even though I found my pocket of friends, it was very traumatic. Like that middle school era was so traumatic. It's so bad. I can't even remember. My memory blocks it out. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. But so the downside was I felt like I just didn't fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in with white kids because I was too black. I didn't fit in with black kids because they thought I was too white. So I just, sort of just roamed the earth, as this person who didn't feel like I had any friends or any place I belonged, right? I don't know if anybody else has ever gone like through life like that or felt that way where you just don't, really fit almost anywhere. So that's how I felt. And so what then eventually happened was as I got older, the one thing that I did have, so the benefit of going to the all white school was that I got a good education and I learned I was ahead of the other kids in the public school, right? So I was like a year ahead. Um, the other benefit of being the outsider, and this is what they say in scientific studies, is that the kid who's the outsider gains the most consciousness of the environment. The kid who's the outsider has the most awareness. He's the one who is watching everyone else and trying to understand what's going on. Like they say that if you go and you talk to kindergartner, who is like if all the kids are playing and interacting, and then you have the one little kid who's sitting to the side because maybe he's a little intimidated or doesn't seem to fit in, he's the one that can tell you what's really going down. He's the one that has that high level of consciousness. Pay attention now. We're using this term consciousness. Remember, every single day we're doing financial consciousness training. I'm training. My goal is to teach you how to be financially conscious. And so he has an awareness. He can see the big picture. He sees everything. He says, "Oh yeah, well Billy comes in late and he plays with Sally, but then sometimes Sally, she spends more. Sometimes she spends time with Harry." And Billy doesn't like that because Billy is jealous of Harry. Just whatever, right? That kid can tell you what's going on. So that was a benefit, I think, of not fitting in, being in something but not of it. And I'd always felt that way. So I would look at white culture and see the good and the bad of that, right? And then I would look at black culture and see the good and the bad. There's some stuff eventually where I was like, I don't know if I really want to do all that. That doesn't make sense. And so the other thing too was just from my parents, I kind of gained this sort of work ethic and generally courage. Like I've never been a person that was afraid of things. And eventually, through high school, I just kind of worked my way through stuff, kind of in an underdog capacity. And then over time, I kind of gained the confidence to carve out my own space and to see what I thought was a curse. It eventually became a blessing because I said, okay, now that I'm not really stuck in any clique, I have the freedom to navigate the world and seek the truth wherever it lies. You understand? So this is who you're learning from. This is my background. This is my origin story. So as I started to gain confidence in shaping my own space, my own worldview, what would happen is like I got to college and again I never took time to try to become one of the cool kids because I knew that wasn't going to work for me. I wasn't interested in that. To this day, I'm still not interested in being the cool kid. I'd rather be correct and I want to be happy and there's a power and a well-being or a benefit that comes from being free enough to just do what makes sense for you. If you're not committed to any particular group too much, you're able to kind of say, I don't want to do that. Or it's like if I go to McDonald's and I want to get food, everybody else might feel like they have to get a value meal. They have to package it together. And somebody else might say, no, actually, I don't want a burger, fries, and a drink. I want a burger. I want a milkshake and I want some cookies. And that's how I'm going to make my meal because I have this self-awareness to know what I want and to not be scared to go for what I want. Right. And so all through college, I got invited to join literally every single fraternity invited me to join. And each time I evaluated the merits when when the alphas came to me, when the Qs came to me, I would look at the deal and I'd say, wait a minute, so I got to pay you money. For 6 weeks, you're gonna beat my ass and wake me up in the middle of the night and make my life a living hell, and I pay you money for this. Okay, I don't understand that. But what's the reward? What do I get? What I get to be part of your group. I don't care about being part of your group. Like, well, you're going to be my friend. Well, but you're already my friend. That's why you're inviting me to join your group. I don't understand. It did not make sense. Phi Beta Sigma, a guy named Daryl Bell, invited me to join Phi Beta Sigma. Yep, Taquana. And actually, Daryl, he actually died. It was kind of weird. He died of a heart attack on the basketball court at 19 years old. It was the craziest thing. So what happens is that when you're able to not feel like you have to necessarily follow along with any type of group, I think that becomes an amazing superpower in terms of your awareness, your capacity to be aware. And now the downside is that because you're not part of a group, because you can't think like a drone, you're not going to have just this massive number of people rallying to support you in everything that you say. Some things that you say, and I know this, I go through this, right? I'm not a full-time Democrat, so I don't have, some massive base of people, of Democrats that love me and cheer for everything that I say. And I'm not a full-time Republican. I don't agree with everything that the Republicans say. So I'm kind of just this nomad, right? Like when people say you appeal to black people, I say actually at least half of all black people don't understand anything that I'm saying and don't like me at all. So it's not really black people. It's really black people that are free thinking, that tend to value intelligence a little bit more, and who are sick of what we're seeing, who are ready to take action and make progress and create a better community. And so that's when I use that term intelligent black people, that's what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about people that just are like, you know what? I'm not down with just trying to be black because it was on BET or whatever their version of blackness is. I'm not trying to just follow along with whatever whoever everybody else is voting for or what everybody else is doing with their money or what everybody else is doing with their kids. I want to figure out the answer. I want to figure out the solution. And if that means going over to the white community and getting some solutions, then we do that, right? If it means going over to the Asian community and learning from them, we'll do that. If it means learning from Jewish people, we'll learn from Jewish people if we have to. Learn from the Palestinians, just any group, the Vietnamese, anybody you can learn from that will teach you something that will help you to achieve your goals and create the life you want. I think that's the best strategy. I really do. And in fact, actually, there's mathematical proof that what I'm saying is accurate. And let me give you the mathematical proof. In mathematics, I used to teach. You guys know my background. I taught math at the University of Kentucky, and in mathematics. There was a concept. There was one concept, dynamic optimization. I've talked to you guys about that. That's where you start at the end of where you want to be and you work your way backward in terms of shaping your solution. There's another one. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a part of linear algebra. And one of the things that we used to do, has anybody ever heard, give me a guess if you've ever heard this term before. Don't worry, I'm not going to scare you with math. But anybody ever heard someone say something like the number of equations has to equal the number of unknowns? That if you have five equations, you have five unknowns. If you don't have a balance, if you have more equations than unknowns, you have a different kind of solution. If you have too few equations and too many unknowns, you get problems as well, right? Well, what happens is that in those equations, they have these things called constraints. And a constraint is just like anything else. Think of slavery. Slavery is a constraint. Your job is a constraint. The group that you have to be affiliated with is your constraint. All right. So a lot of us live in our lives with constraints. Some of these constraints are good. Some of these constraints hinder us. Our culture is a constraint, right? If I say, well, I'm going to be the best black man I can be, but it has to fit within some pre-existing definition of what it means to be black, that's a constraint. So what they find in mathematics actually is that if you are solving a problem, and that's what we're here to do, that's what we do. That's why we get up every single morning at 10 a.m. Eastern and we talk about financial consciousness, is we're trying to solve a problem, right? We're trying to solve this problem. Like, why is black wealth lower than everybody else's wealth? Why is my family struggling when we could be doing better? Why is it that we don't have the relationships in our community that will allow us to be healthy, wealthy, and strong, right? So we're solving problems. And one thing that's true in mathematics is that when you solve a problem, it is harder to solve that problem optimally when you put constraints on the problem. The more constraints you have, the harder it is to come up with the optimal solution. Okay. So follow along with me. Let me know if you're still following what I'm saying here. I know I'm making a long argument here. I didn't even plan on having this conversation. I just let it come to me. But literally in mathematics, they say that the more constraints you put on the more constraints you put on a problem, the less optimal your solution is going to be. Okay. And the best way to solve a problem is to try to solve it with as few constraints as you possibly can. So where am I getting at? Where are you going with this, Boyce? What does this mean? Let me explain. You are constrained in so many ways that we can't even count how many constraints are put on you from the time you're born. You're constrained by your culture. You're constrained by the Negro naysayers in your life. You're constrained by your own fear. You're constrained by your perception of white supremacy. You might be constrained by access to capital. You might be constrained by your creativity. You might be constrained by the amount of education you have. Right? This is why education matters. People that have more education have more options and fewer constraints. When we talk about options, just so you know, when I say the word options, I could be talking about stock options, but really I'm talking about options in general. Options has the same definition everywhere, whether you're talking about stock options in the markets or options in life or whatever, or constraints. Options are the opposite of constraints. When you are constrained, you don't have options. If I'm sitting here and someone says, run as fast as you can, but I am constrained by shackles on my ankles, I have shackles on my ankles because I'm a prison inmate or something. I'm not going to run as fast as I would run if you took the shackles off. Do you understand? So what I'm saying to you is that in order for us to really solve the problem, for you to really maximize your life and for you to really be where you want to be and for you to build the legacy you're seeking to build, you got to take the shackles off. You have to really, really, really take the shackle. You have to take the shackles off your education. That means that's knowledge is power. You have to take the shackles off from bad culture. You have to take the shackles off in terms of your own fear. And eventually you'll take the shackles off in terms of economic limitations or time constraints. You have to take the shackles off. You have to take the shackles off in terms of your creativity because typically the best solutions are the ones that lie right outside of your comfort zone. Do you understand? Your dream life typically lives right outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of us are constrained. A lot of us don't optimize in our lives. We don't reach our fullest potential. We don't achieve our goals because we're trying to achieve our goals with too many constraints. We're trying to optimize in an environment where optimization is not going to occur. So take off the shackles, just be free, let your mind roam, don't be constrained. And in fact, let me just tell you this. I during the pandemic, I worked a lot with the rapper Ice Cube, which was really cool because Ice Cube had been one of my favorite rappers my whole life. So it's really cool to get to know him as a friend. And the most impressive thing Ice Cube said, because I when I talk to a celebrity, I always vet them to kind of see like where is your head at? What kind of celebrity are you? What kind of person are you? And so we were talking, and one thing that he said that I really was impressed by was he said I just want to do what's best for the black community. And he said, I'm not trying to be loyal to no clique. I'm not trying to be loyal to no gang. I'm not trying to be loyal to no political party. I'm just trying to do what's best for black people. And I respected that because remember Ice Cube, he represents the West Coast. He is, he's keep it gangster, y'all, keep it gangster, right? Like the whole West Coast knows him. So he has a ton of relationships, a ton of affiliations, a ton of connections, a ton like the West Coast is very gang affiliated in a lot of different ways, and that's not always a bad thing. Like I told you all, the economics is actually gang affiliation. Apple is nothing more than an economic gang. The Pacific Trade Association, I think that's what they call it, with the Asian countries. That's an economic gang. NAFTA is an economic gang. Microsoft is an economic gang. So gang affiliation actually is a powernomics principle that Dr. Claude Anderson speaks about extensively in his book Powernomics, which you can get a copy of that book at powernomics.com. Everybody should read it. And so I was really intrigued by the fact that he went out of his way to say, I'm not letting anybody or anything constrain me as I find this solution. And that means I'm going to go talk to the Democrats. I'm going to talk to the Republicans. I'm going to talk to anybody that can help me solve this problem. And I personally think that when you have something that matters to you, I think you have to do the same thing. I think you're going to have to challenge some of the constraints in terms of culture, in terms of people around you. A lot of times we are pulled down by social pressure. Studies show that whatever level the people around you are operating on, you're going to be tempted to operate at that level. The peer pressure matters. I don't care if you're 50, 60 years old. Peer pressure matters. This is why one element of economic consciousness is being conscious of the environment that you're in and how that's going to affect you. Because that group around you, if that group is operating on level two, then you're going to feel like you're doing an amazing thing because you went to level four. But really, you need to be around people that are on level nine so that you'll be pressed to be the best that you can be. So let's just be pressed to be the best. That's what we want to do. And that requires fearlessness. So I applaud you. I commend you for being fearless enough to go on this journey with me. Now, a lot of you got text messages. If you want to join drboycedaily.com, that's where you can get access to the community. We set up the community inside B1 Nation. If you want to network with each other and other wealth builders, just go to drboycedaily.com and you can still join and get a membership. We're going to do this every single morning morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. That's what we're doing. We tested it out. It was fun. So we're going to keep going. And so if you did say last month, that was a separate thing. If you did say this month, if you're doing the 10 Commandments thing, then what happens is that the Zoom code switches. So members will be able to stay forever. Everyone who's not a member, we'll just invite you to join again in a different context. But ultimately, if you bought the book to be here, that doesn't give you the membership. Okay. So if you want access to the community and the recordings and everything else, just go to drboycedaily.com. We discount the price by 25%. So it's a really good deal. So feel free to go and be a part of that. All right. So let's hop in and let's look at our slides for today. Let me grab this. And so what I want to talk to you guys about is let's finish up really quickly. We were talking yesterday about Black-owned businesses and why Black-owned businesses are so important for good economic soil. And we mentioned this, that if you have a loved one that starts a business, the best way you can improve their outcomes is number one, buy their products. Every business needs a customer. You can give them marketing, market the business to friends and family, offer advice and support for improvement. Remember, Black people have trillions of dollars of what they call human capital. Human capital is all the fancy degrees you have, all the education you have, all the experience you have. You have a lot of that. So offer that human capital, that advice, that support, that guidance. Low cost, free or low cost labor. That's another multi-trillion-dollar asset that Black people have that gets extracted from us on a massive scale. They mine us like they mine for gold in the mountains of Africa. That's what they mine the Black community, meaning that when they get you, when you have a baby and your baby is trained to go work for the corporate plantation and they give 100,000 hours of labor to big corporations, I want you to go one day and multiply. Let's say your baby's labor is worth $40 an hour. And I want you to multiply 100,000 times 40. You're going to get about $4 million. So they literally, and that's per child. So you have 5 kids. You gave $20 million to to these other establishments owned and controlled by other people. That's why the Black wealth does not grow and white wealth continues to grow. So offer that labor to them. You can offer them financing. You can be part of the bank. You can be part of their investment syndicate that helps them to get the capital that they need. Capital and liquidity are critical for a business's survival. It's hard for a business to grow without capital. So some of that capital can come from family. Just be extremely careful, though. Make sure you get your contracts and don't put too much money into any one investment. If you want my guideline, I don't think you should invest more than 5% of your income or wealth into any one investment ever. That way you are diversified. Whenever I hear about athletes or entertainers that go broke, I instantly know that they violated the rule of diversification. So make absolutely sure that you don't ever get tempted to have somebody, convince you to put your life savings into some business or some idea. In fact, I don't even invest in an idea. Somebody will come to me with an idea and I say, okay, what am I going to do with an idea? I can do something with an executed idea. If you've already executed it and you spent 5 years working the idea to build it up to a certain level, that makes sense. That's more real. But when you're just giving me a concept, I don't know about your ability to execute that concept. I don't know if this concept's going to work. There's a huge amount of risk. So this is my 2 cents. I don't think you should ever invest in an idea ever. If you do invest, maybe you invest a little bit. Maybe you invest some time. Maybe you help out in terms of some labor or ideation. Maybe you invest like a little bit of money just to kind of test it out. In business, they call it MVP, minimum viable product. That's where you don't know if a product's going to work. So you spend the minimal amount of money to just create something small just to see if it's going to be successful. Give you a real example. When I started this Dr. Boyce Daily project, I didn't know how you guys are going to be. I didn't know how you're going to respond to me coming in every single morning. I just tested it out. I said, okay, let's try it out for a month. Let's see how people, how everyone responds. In theory, I felt like it would work, but I didn't know for sure. And so I said, let's test it out for a month and let's just see what how it goes. And let's see how I feel, right? How do I feel getting up every single morning at 10 a.m.? And the first month went by really well. So I was like, oh, let's keep going. This is cool. We're forming new habits. We're getting a chance to connect every day. And it also fits one of our longer term objectives. One of the goals of the Black Business School is we really want to replace the public school system, at least when it comes to business and economics. I believe that we can teach ourselves better than any institution on the planet. I really do. There's nothing your kids are going to learn in public school that they're going to learn here. There's nothing they're going to learn at a university that they're going to learn here. There's no MBA program that covers Black economics in this way. And so ultimately, this is every bit as good, better actually, than any type of economic education you can get almost anywhere. Okay, so ultimately, this is great because it's like now, okay, cool. Boyce is here every single morning. I have access to my personal college professor, and we're going to grow together. And we're also tailoring specifically our economic conversations to the Black community, as opposed to simply asking you to become white people with black skin, and applying economic models that work for other communities but don't work for us because we have different capital constraints and different cultural constraints that make it a little bit more difficult for us to build the businesses that we want to build. Now, the other thing that you can do is if your loved one starts a Black owned business, you can share ideas on product development. Like you can look at their product and say, hey, oh, you sell, that's a great idea for a coffee shop. Well, you could probably sell donuts in the coffee shop because people tend to like coffee with their donuts. Or maybe you can, cousin Rerun has a tax service and he's really good. So maybe he can do people's taxes in the coffee shop and he can set up and you can offer his tax service to the customers that are already coming into the coffee shop. So sharing ideas, remember ideas and intellectual capital or intellectual property are also a multi-trillion dollar asset that gets stolen from Black people on a regular basis. Black people are constantly being ripped off of our intellectual property, of our best ideas. Think about how often every year, this should make you sad actually. Think about how every single year, anybody else notice this? Let me know if you notice this. Do you notice that every year Black History Month, they always tell you about some Black person who invented something amazing and they never got credit? Like they'll say, "Oh, well, Jack Daniel's whiskey wasn't really invented by Jack Daniels. It was actually invented by the slave that worked for him." Or no, the telephone wasn't invented by Thomas Edison. It was actually invented by the Black guy who never got any credit. Like, did you know that a Black man was the first one to create the automobile ahead of Henry Ford? Right. And so we have all these scenarios. And I want you to think about this. Every time you see a video like that, every time you see a Black history fact of some Black person that did something amazing and never got credit, I want you to practice in your head hearing a cha-ching, because every single time there's this brilliant idea that we never got credit for, that's at least $1 billion out the window. So a black man really invented the automobile. Cha-ching. A black man really created the first airplane engine. Cha-ching. Right? A black man really invented the ice cream parlor, and he didn't get credit. Cha-ching. Right? Every single cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Because this is what America is built on. All the vast, massive amounts of wealth that exists in our country comes from these ideas. Thomas Edison created General Electric, and look at what GE is. What's GE worth right now? Holy crap. Let me see. Let me just look it up. Let me see. Let me look up the market capitalization of GE. The market cap of GE the market cap of GE is, drum roll please, $150 billion. $150 billion. So if there was a Black person involved, even in a fraction of the creation of GE, even if they only did 10% of the work, 10% of that work is $15 billion. $15 billion, remember, every billionaire is 1,000 millionaires. So $15 billion is 15,000 millionaires. 15,000 millionaires in the Black community that would exist, the consciousness exercise. Every time I say that, that's like, how remember in that movie Don't Be a Menace, where he would jump in and say message, right? So every time I say consciousness exercise, that's basically me saying message. That's me telling you I want you to practice your consciousness. So consciousness, again, it means seeing in the fifth dimension. It means not just seeing what did happen and what is happening, it's seeing what would have happened and what could happen, right? That's that fifth dimension I talked about. So here's a consciousness exercise. I want you to imagine that there are 15,000 millionaires, Black millionaires, who would be in the Black community doing all kinds of amazing stuff, marrying Black women and Black men, raising Black kids, investing in Black owned schools, supporting the Black community. 15,000 millionaires who were just wiped off into oblivion, just literally disappeared in the dust, like in that Avengers movie. They were going to exist. They would exist had Black people gotten credit for for what we did just with General Electric alone. That's 15,000. And that's only assuming black people did 10% of what Thomas Edison did. If they did 100%, it's not 15,000 billion millionaires, it's 150,000 millionaires. So imagine what the black community would look like if you had an extra 150,000 millionaires who were supporting black infrastructure, supporting the Negro Leagues, buying, sports teams and buildings and setting up corporate offices, donating to little league teams, all these things. Like, think about that. That's just one example. That's just one example. I could probably name about 100 of these examples. Okay, so this is where this is why things like integration and all this other stuff did not really work for us. This is the conversation we need to have. Okay, so let me keep going here. Other ways you can support your loved ones when they start a business, which is really important. You have to create fertile economic soil. What does fertile economic soil look like? And it's all in my book. The book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, by the way. You can get a copy at drboycebooks.com. And fertile economic soil is basically an environment that fosters economic success. That's what it is. It's like fertile economic soil is an environment that is designed to create the outcomes that you're seeking. It's where every single thing pushes you in the direction that you want to go. There's no very little wind resistance, almost like when we talked about airplanes. Remember us explaining how airplanes work and how airplanes are lifted. They're moved forward by thrust and lift, and then they're slowed down by weight and drag. So if you want a plane to go fast, you maximize its thrust, you maximize its lift, you minimize weight, you minimize drag, you minimize anything that's going to slow down that plane and keep it from getting to its destination. So the same thing is true with creating fertile economic soil. You want an environment where anybody with a great business idea is going to get supported. People are going to buy their products from their family. They're going to get marketing support from family members. Everybody's going to tell everybody about it. Everybody's going to come in with advice and offer all kinds of support for improvement. Everybody's going to offer encouragement. You can do it. You go, girl. Way to go. I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you for trying. Keep going. I offer free or low cost labor. Hey, how can I help out? What can I do? Everybody wants to be an asset to the family, right? Offer financing. Hey, I've got an extra $2,000 sitting here that's not making any money. Hey, can I give you $1,000 and maybe you can pay me back with interest? That way you win and I win. I get use for my money and you're getting the capital that you need. I trust you because we're cousins and we operate on the same family code because we studied the 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. We understand the importance of coming through for each other. Here's some ideas. See, what you got to understand, here's the beauty of ideas. We talk about intellectual property. I was just explaining to you how we'd have at least another 15,000 to 150,000 extra millionaires if Black people simply gotten credit for our intellectual property on the invention on Thomas Jefferson or Thomas Edison's inventions. Well, the thing is that when I tell you that one idea can change everything, I am telling you, one idea can change everything. Facebook is pretty much one idea. Let's put people's faces on the computer so that people can look up pretty girls or whatever. One idea, the Black Business School. There we go. There we go. That's one idea, right? Yeah, yeah. I have seen times where it's so fascinating. Like, again, one consciousness exercise here. So let's get ready. Y'all ready for a consciousness exercise? The way I view idea sessions and jam sessions with other entrepreneurs is I look at it like digging for treasure because I know that if we sit down and we're really thinking about this and we process this long enough, there's one idea under the surface somewhere that's just sitting right there waiting to be discovered that's going to make all of us another $1 million. Why do I know this? Well, because I've seen it. I have seen it many, many times. I've seen literally one idea, one pivot, one tiny little thing, one tiny little adjustment, or like, hey, let's try this. That literally led to creation of millions, even billions of dollars. The whole concept of Twitter was just a pivot from it wasn't even an idea. It was a pivot from an idea. What happened was the company released this big app that was supposed to do all these amazing things, and they made the mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make. They poured all this money into building this crazy app, and they put it, and then they released it. They had the big launch, and it was a complete dud. Nobody wanted it. Everybody was like, "Oh, whatever." And so they were sitting there in the middle of this misery, the whole building has burned down, and you're sitting here going through the rubble and just digging through to figure out, okay, what happened here? Like, how did we invest $100 million or 50 million or whatever into this thing that did not take off? And so what they did was they looked at the data, and they found that people hated pretty much everything about the app except for these little stupid little tweets. And they put out these tweets just as an add-on, like, okay, this is just an extra feature that we were going to throw in here to make the customer happy. But apparently they like these little tweets. So they said, okay, let's just build the whole business around the tweets. And next thing you know, the the tweets became the business. Twitter becomes this 20, 30 billion, $40 billion company. I think, what did Elon Musk pay for? What, about 40 something $billion or something? Just off this one dumb little idea. Like, who would have thought 15 years ago that you could start a company where people would tweet 90 characters or something and everyone would want to do it? It's so crazy, right? So the by sitting with your relatives, this is where I want you to apply this. When you're just sitting there with your loved ones and you are creating fertile economic soil by having these intellectual, entrepreneurial, economic jam sessions, what you're doing is you're opening up the keys to the universe. You're creating these little economic wormholes of possibility that can come into existence because you might discover that one idea that literally changes everything. So when you share ideas with loved ones, when you say, "Hey, you're selling coffee, why don't you sell donuts too?" Since you're selling coffee and donuts, let's figure out what other products are correlated with coffee and donuts. Maybe, well, let's survey your customers and ask them what they would buy if they came into, like, just little things like that. And these are basic skills I think children should be trained on. So invite your kids to these meetings, have them participate, because if they can do this, this is so much better and so much more rewarding than simply going and getting a job and letting your boss sit with and get the best idea, take your best ideas and then go make another $10 million from it, right? Because believe me, I bet you if you go work for a company and you become part of middle management, tell me I'm lying. Tell me if I'm lying. If you go work in middle management or up, they're going to do that with you. They're going to have you sit in a room and say, okay, everybody put your best ideas on the table. That's why do you think they do that? Because they know one idea can change everything. That's all. If you read a book like Disney Wars, that's all Disney used to do, was they would be like, okay, all right, everybody. They pull the executives in and they'd say, okay, everybody, what, give me your best, let's give all your best ideas and your worst ideas. And somebody would be like, oh, well, we can create something called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and have Dumpy, Gropey, Sleepy, whatever their names are, right? And next thing you know, they're putting out a movie and they're making $100 million from that movie. Okay. So do those idea jam sessions that will create the fertile economic soil that will open up the door to maximize the likelihood of success. And you operate with minimal constraints. Every time you support, you're minimizing the constraint, which means you're increasing the probability of maximizing the outcome. Give me a yes if you're following. Give me quick yeses. I need some confirmation to let you know you're seeing what I'm seeing here. Okay. All right. So let's Okay, so the next one is you can also partner with each other. That's another opportunity. If you have several businesses running in the same family, then a lot of you can just sort of get together and form partnerships and do things together, collaborations. That's a beautiful thing. That's a simple one here. All right, so here, let me just kind of give you a little bit of a framework, and this is where we're going to go big picture here, so we understand just what it means to be Black in America with economics and what I call the great economic theft of integration. So why were we integrated into America? We know what we were taught. We were taught that, white people felt bad and that they decided to bring us in so that we could sit next to white kids when we go to school every day. I don't believe that fairy tale. I believe integration occurred because they need more workers. One thing about capitalism is that capitalism uses people as food. It needs people as food. And you are a human, you are a natural human resource. So basically, same thing is true with immigration. Immigration is just rampant and it's allowed to be rampant because they're like, hey, the more people we bring in young people from south of the border, we got more workers for our factories, for our companies, and the capitalists know that they can get these workers at very low rates, and also the productivity is higher. So capitalist societies tend to operate and function based on productivity. When you have lots of young people, you have lots of wealth. A lot of European countries and Asian countries have a huge problem. Their populations are getting older. They can't, they simply cannot function in the next 100 years because they don't have enough young people. Young people drive an economy. Young people drive an economy. So in America, where the boomers are getting older. There's going to be what they call the mass. I forgot what they call it. The mass. Let's just call it the mass wealth transfer. There's another name for it, or the great transfer of wealth that's happening right now, where trillions of dollars are being passed from boomers to millennials and Gen whatever. I guess we're Gen X. I think I'm Gen X, and then the millennials they're behind me, and then that other generation. I guess is Gen Y. I think right. So all of these generations are getting trillions of dollars in wealth. That's good. But the problem, though, is that you need for productivity, you need workers, young workers. So Africa's greatest economic benefit for the next 100 years, what the reason that people predict Africa to really become the next India, the next China, is because Africa has a lot of young people. The average age of an African is lower than the average age of a European. It's lower than the average age of an Asian. It's lower than the average age of an American. So effectively, integration occurred partly because more workers just means more productivity. So they said, okay, let's bring black people in. They're great for being soldiers. They're great for labor. They're great for being consumers. We need all these things. You think about even Vietnam War, where Secretary McNamara instituted Project 100,000, where their goal was they said we want to go get 100,000 men from the inner cities to go fight this war because a lot of white folks don't want to go to Vietnam anymore. And that's these are the little things that have been done, right? For the sake of integration. You're being brought in, you were being brought in because they wanted to use you, right? And I don't even think we have to say this in a cynical way. I think we should say this in an honest way. They also needed more renters. If you have more people trying to rent apartments and stuff like that, then obviously the landlords make more money. They also needed more consumers. That's why you have videos like How to Sell to the Negro that is right there on YouTube, where Ebony Magazine explained to big corporations that are owned by white people, this is how you sell things to black people. This is how you get black people to buy stuff, right? It's all psychological, and it also digs deeply into subconscious programming. This is why consciousness is important, because if you're not conscious, then your subconscious will dominate all of your decision making. Your subconscious is driven by your habits and your culture, and unfortunately, you don't have habits and culture naturally ingrained in your families that lead to positive economic outcomes. If you don't agree with me, then I want you to just look around and do a consciousness exercise, and I want you to sit here and make a list of 5 or 6 of your most important relatives that you know of and think about where they are economically, or do they feel financially secure? Are they making as much money as they want to make? Are they happy with their life? Are they enjoying their job? Where are they financially? And then I want you to sort of connect that back to the culture and say, how did it get that way? What happened here, right? So ultimately, this is why they integrated us. Also, they make money from things like failing schools. There's no economic incentive to improve public schools because they make money when just because your kid is there. There's no economic benefit to educating your child. That's why I would say to you, if you're a parent and you're able to do it, somehow bring your kids to this class. If you paid to be a member of this community, then bring your whole family. I don't care. And also remember, if you go to drboycedaily.com, you can get the recording. So your kid can watch this when they get home and maybe make it like a job. Just maybe pay them, $5 for every training that they go through. It'll be the best investment you'll ever make because I guarantee you, your kid's gonna be the smartest damn kid in that whole damn school. I promise you this. I promise you. If you don't mind me, every now and then I might cuss a little bit, but I don't cuss too much in class. I try to keep it to a minimum. My daddy used to cuss in front of me, so you can blame it on him. But really, if you give your child, give him like $5 per lecture. If you can afford it, maybe that's too much. If it's too much, then maybe you say, go through these 5 and I'll give you $5. Whatever, however you want to do it. And make it like a job. And I guarantee you that they'll be more motivated because kids like money. And then number two, they're gonna be ahead of me. They're not just gonna be ahead of you and everyone else, and they're not just gonna be ahead of their friends. They're gonna be ahead of where I was when I was their age. I did not even meet a black college professor until I was 20 years old. And to this day, I've never had one teach me before. I've never been in a class with a black teacher, a black college professor. I've taken a lot of classes. I was in school from age 18 to age 31, 13 years of school, studying nonstop, took 1,000 classes in a lot of different areas. I never had one single black professor ever. So if your child has me as their teacher at the age of 7, they're ahead of 99% of the population. So what I'm saying is that I think that we should use the resources that are right in front of us. So the same way they use you, I want you to use me. Especially if you paid to be a member. And again, there's a whole community and all that. drboycedaily.com if you want to sign up, if you haven't done that yet. But share this with your whole family. All right, so let's go back to this. Let's hop back in and look at the next slide here, or finish the rest of this slide. All right. So the other things about integration is workers, renters, consumers, failing public schools. If you go to Chicago, any major city, you're going to see evidence of this everywhere. They've also made a ton of money from prisons. I don't doubt at all that there's a connection between the transition that hip hop took, the turn that hip hop took, and the filling up of the penitentiaries. I think that was kind of a slick little marketing technique where they mass market criminal behavior for young black men who don't know any better, and then they only realize the flaw of their ways once they're in prison. They've gotten the 60-year prison sentence, and it's kind of sad when that happens. Also. And generally speaking, this is how capitalism works. Capitalism, in my view, is stronger than racism. I think racism is important. Racism matters, no question about it. But capitalism is stronger than racism in the sense that if the capitalism can exploit you based on race, they'll do that. But they're really doing it because they want to make more money. So maybe they just say, okay, you know what? Selling liquor, weed, guns, and fried chicken is easier when you're selling it to black people, but it's not just because they're black. It's because being black is correlated with a lot of other factors that make it easier for me to sell my liquor, weed, guns, and fried chicken. What are the other factors? Well, they're not as highly educated maybe on health. They don't know that eating the fried chicken every day is going to kill them, give them diabetes, and make them obese. They their community is not as protected. They don't have leaders, and Dr. Claude Anderson says extensively all the time. Malcolm said it. Marcus Garvey said it. You don't have real black communities. You don't have real black leaders that are protecting the community. And this is not appropriate. This will not happen here. Maybe they're economically desperate because they don't have infrastructure, they don't have institutions, they don't have schools, they don't have businesses. So because they're economically desperate, they'll go ahead and spend $2 on the fried chicken meal instead of buying the healthy vegetables or whatever. Because also because the fact that they're black might mean that they don't even have a grocery store in the area that serves healthy food. But either way, they go to the place where they can get away with it. So effectively, capitalism is kind of an interesting beast, and it's one of those things that just tends to exploit those who are weaker. And that's really the general idea, is that being black can make you weaker if you're approaching your blackness with the wrong strategy. And I think integration is the wrong strategy because integration ends up diluting whatever little economic power you might have. You see, if let's say that we didn't have integration in the way that it was done, let's say we had desegregation instead. Desegregation is not integration. Desegregation is where you can do what you want, buy where you want, live where you want, but you choose not to because you like, just like Asian people, they could abandon Chinatown and go integrate if they want to, but they don't. They don't want to do that. They want to be in Chinatown. Why would they? Why would you want to be in Chinatown when you could go live in a white suburb or whatever? Well, they want to be in Chinatown. Why? Well, because they have something in common with the people that are around them. They can build businesses together. They understand each other. They live by the same culture, same code of conduct, code of behavior. They can pull together their economics. They can protect and fortify that community. You come into Chinatown with some nonsense or try to set your businesses up and take their wealth or whatever, they're going to boot you out. They're going to tell you you got to get up out of here, right? So effectively, if you look at what would have happened with black folks if we were able to do that, go the other direction of having desegregation instead of integration, then what you would probably have are definitely a lot more black owned businesses. You would actually have strong black communities, and you would have what I refer to as the essence of economic self-defense. You see, people in Chinatown, in my opinion, they're not trying to go and take over the world. They're not using their economic power to go and conquer other communities. They're not saying, okay, there's the Cubans, let's go get them. Let's go get the Irish next. They're not doing that. What they're doing is they fortified themselves. They sort of closed ranks. Right? They pulled their resources together and their energy together to make sure that they say, look, we're not going to go conquer you. We're not going to mess with you, but you got to leave us alone. You better leave us alone because we understand economic self-defense. We can defend ourselves. We can protect ourselves in this area. And so one of the rules of economic self-defense is that I'm not saying that you necessarily need to have enough economic power to go out and conquer the world or tell a white man what to do or go kick other people's asses. I don't even get into all that. I'm not into conqueror invader mentality. What I am saying though is that within your own circle, your own space, your own community, and even your own family, you can close ranks enough that you're economically fortified, you're economically protected. What does that look like? Well, as a father, the way I might economically fortify my family is I'm going to get all the kids on code, help everybody understand what the rules of the family are and how we're loyal to each other, just like the Rothschilds did, just like Bernard Arnault does with his family, etc. What else might I do? We're gonna create a black-owned business that we run, we control. We're gonna also have some investments in other assets so that we have plenty of money, so that you can't come in, you can't. I'm not trafficking my kids to you so they can get money. Daddy's got that. I'm not going to sell my wife off to you to go work for you unless she wants to. I'm not going to have to leave the house. I can live my life and stay right here. I don't have to go out and be in vulnerable spaces with uncomfortable situations and people that don't like me. I can just stay in a space where I'm safe. I stay in my neighborhood, so to speak. What are some other things? Well, the kids can be trained on some of the principles of the Ten Commandments, where they understand what it means to pour into the family. They understand what it means to carry their weight. And what happens is that a family like that that's able to at least be able to do little things like provide its own economic security and maybe educate itself and educate each other. That's a family that's a little bit tougher to penetrate. You can't really penetrate a solid family that knows how to make its own money, that kind of has its own set of rules and ways of living. Like if I go into some compound where there's some guy who's got his wife and their 8 kids, and all of them are loyal to each other, and all of them have everything that they need, and it's their land, and they're doing they got everything, their own food, their own education, their own economics. I can't really come in there and extract much of anything from them. If you imagine somebody who is a predator, who wants to either be predatory economically, who wants to come in and swindle somebody in the family, it's not going to work because they got a relative sitting right there saying, no, 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 we don't want none of that. We're not investing in that. We don't want to buy any of that, right? Or if somebody wants to come in and you have predators in our community, think about how many little black girls get molested every year because they don't have protection, right? Because some guy, some R. Kelly type guy, slides into the playground looking for 12-year-olds. And some little girl whose parents are too busy to protect her ends up getting in the car with this guy, thinking that she's grown, thinking that she wants to drive off with this man because he's got a little bit of money in his pocket because her daddy ain't around. Her daddy never validated her. Her dad, no, her mother can't really give her what she wants. So she wants a Gucci bag. So he says, "Hey, girl, here's a Gucci bag. Get in the car with me." Right? Well, that happens because there's no protection, there's no security. That's the kind of thing that never would have happened in my house because my father was a police officer, and he would have probably, if you try to come up in there and mess with my sister, your brains might have been on the floor that day. That's how serious he was, right? And so ultimately, I would say to you that the same thing is true when you talk about even economic self-defense. The reason it's important for those of us that are heads of households to become as economically educated as we can be is because you can develop structure that protects people, right? Protects children, that accounts for things, but it requires a certain mindset. It's like for I think for men, we have to kind of understand that masculinity, part of masculinity is being responsible for something, being able to hold down something, hold down a territory, hold down your wife, hold down your kids, things like that. Same thing is true for women as well in their own way. I'm not a woman, so I'm not going to speak on that because I don't want to tell women what to do. But I think ladies know what I'm talking about. But ultimately, I think that sort of thinking about these things and being trained on these things and educating each other on these things is more important than anything you'll learn in a public school. It's more important than anything you'll learn in a university. It's more important than anything you'll learn on TV. It's more important than anything you'll learn pretty much anywhere because this is where we're vulnerable. This is where we get penetrated. This is where we get harmed. This is where we get exploited. This is where massive amounts of wealth is extracted. The black community gets its wealth stolen because it is a porous community. It's just a space where if I'm an Arab, I can come in to a black neighborhood and I can set up a store and nobody's going to give me any problems with that. Again, if you talk about people that are predators, they can walk up and take somebody's daughter and there's nobody saying, no, that's my daughter. That's my responsibility. You better give me my daughter back. Do you understand? Let me give you an example, real life example of where there was an economic predator that try to take advantage of our family, and it just got stopped because we had a certain amount of unity. So let me tell you what happened. Now, remember I told y'all yesterday. I'm gonna end on this note because it's a little bit lighter. I know I get real serious, and I don't want to make anybody like on edge, but I want to tell you the truth on this. So I remember yesterday I was telling you all about timeshares and how I was saying that timeshares are just not a smart investment. Timeshares rip people off. Timeshare people, they're the best salespeople in the world, but basically, for the most part, you should not buy a new timeshare, in my opinion. Now, now, here's the thing. Um, the thing about timeshares, though, is that they tempt you. They're really good. Anybody notice that? Where they'll be like, you can come and stay in this luxurious suite for a week for like $1, right? You're like, ooh, that's a vacation. I'm gonna do it. It won't be $1. It might be like $199 for the week, and you're really tempted. And so anyway, and they're always real nice. Like they'll be like, "Oh, so how's your stay at the hotel?" And you say, "Oh, it's fine. I'm looking for the bathroom." Well, how long are you gonna be here? Oh man, he's asking me leading questions. He's about to try to sell me something. So long story short, here's the deal. So timeshares bad, right? If you want to get a timeshare, in my opinion, what me and my wife are going to do is we're going to just buy a used one. Because I think the used ones, that's where it's at. Because people get so sick and frustrated, they'll unload their timeshare for almost nothing. So you can get in and get something real cheap that way, right? They got these websites for that. So anyway, so one time my sister and I fell for the banana in the tailpipe. I fell for the rope a dope. So I went on. We were in Florida, and somebody caught me. They gave me the world and got me to come sit in this stupid presentation. So me and my sister were together, and we were kind of mad because we wanted to go to the beach. And this guy sitting there, and well, you're going to save this much money, and this is and this is a great investment. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm watching his sales process. I'm like, man, he is such a good salesperson. But I'm like, I really want to leave. And every time I tried to leave, this man like would not let us go. Like they were like, no, 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 stay right here. And you got to stay through the presentation because you got the blah, blah, blah. Right. So we're listening to this guy. And then I just realized, I said, okay, this guy's trying to play me. I'm not buying anything. Right. So here's what happened. So when the guy, he was trying to persuade me because I'm the oldest in the family. See, this is important. I think anybody who has multiple children, talk to your oldest about leadership. You must talk to your oldest about leadership because that will set the tone for the other children in many families. I don't know if anybody else has ever seen that. You cannot, the oldest child, our oldest son, I just tell him, I was like, you got to be sturdy, man, because your younger siblings are looking up to you. So that's my thing. My daddy was sturdy. My goal was to be sturdy, right? Just, stand up, right? So I was like, eventually I was like, I'm not buying nothing from this dude. Like, whatever, man. So we're sitting here and he's like trying to persuade me, trying to talk me into it, trying to cut the price. I'm like, no, 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 no. So here's what he does, right? So then he realizes that I'm a lost cause, right? There's no point in trying to sell me anything because I've decided I'm not going to buy anything. So what does he do? Well, he turns to my sister because it's like, okay, since I can't get through the man, I'm gonna go to the woman. Since I can't get through the black man and he's too firm, I'm gonna go to the woman. This is I want you to process this. This is consciousness exercise. Okay. Since I can't get through James Evans Jr., I'm gonna talk to Florida when James is at work. Do you understand? This is how the R. Kelly sneak into your daughter's bedroom. They charm the mother because the father would be the first one to see through his BS, right? So they turn to my sister, and so he starts trying to talk my sister into buying this timeshare, and I'm sitting there and I'm just listening. I'm letting her, kind of talk to him, and you know what my sister does? My sister says, "Well, I'm not gonna buy unless my brother wants to buy." So she literally just deferred. She's like, no, speak to the manager or speak to, in that particular context, because I'm the older brother. She was just like, don't talk to me. You need to talk to him. Don't know, if it's okay with him, then we can do this. But if it's not okay with him, no, you're wasting your time. And so anyway, not to say, and this does not imply on any level that the man always has to be the one in charge of everything all the time, right? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that what made it impossible for them to exploit us economically was just the unity. The unity. I'm loyal to my sister. I protect her to the ends of the earth. She's loyal to me. She got my back and then some. She got my back all the way to the hacky sack. She will not falter on that because that was a core value that was instilled in us when we were children. right? So ultimately, the way that one of the most important rules of economic self-defense is having some level of unity, something that says that we're on code here, we're connected. You can't penetrate one side of the fence because the other side is not giving you what you want. And then eventually the guy had to back off. The guy just, he knew he wasn't going to get any money out of us. And you think about this, if one of us had folded or whatever, he would have walked away with 15, $20,000 of our family wealth, given us some crappy timeshare, and we would have been pissed off and we would have been exploited because of that. So really, I hope this discussion, I know this real life example may not be the perfect example, but it's an example to show you that when you're talking about black wealth, white wealth, when you're talking about black wealth going down, white wealth going up, I would argue that one of the systematic mechanisms that is used to extract wealth in economics from our community is the concept of the broken family and disunity amongst not just the community at large, but even within the same family. Even the fact that they trained you to fight each other and trump each other and get in each other's faces and abandon each other. And then what happens is they can come in and they can pluck you one by one. It's just sort of standard Willie Lynch divide and conquer kind of thing. And if you don't believe me, just look around. Look at all the different ways we get economically exploited. One simple example is, let's say you've got a family where there are three siblings, and the three siblings could form a great family business together if they all say read the Ten Commandments book or something like that, and they're all on the same page, and they formed a family business, and they're all smart, and they all work hard, and they all show up for each other. They could create a business where no one ever has to work for anybody, but because they can't get along, or because they've become divided for some reason, or because their parents never created a structured household that would bring them together and make them unified. Remember, you're the leader, you're the leader, you're the leader, you're the one who sets the tone. You define the culture. Because you didn't define the right culture, the kids are scattered, splattered all over the place. And what ends up happening? Pay attention now. What ends up happening? Do they come together and form a great business where they're taking care of each other and everybody's good? No, they don't. Sister, Sally, she goes to work for Ford. Jojo, he goes to work for UPS. Uh, Billy is working for McDonald's. And so Ford, McDonald's, and UPS and every corporation in America, and then also the federal government. Let's throw in the fourth sibling. The fourth sibling, oh, she's just on welfare. She got baby daddies and welfare or something, right? Um, the corporations and the government are structured to basically replace the security that's supposed to be provided by the family. Or at the very least, in the black community, the security needs to come from the family because we don't have our own government and we don't have enough corporations. So the family is that institution that is most critical for that first line of economic self-defense. Let me know if you get what I'm saying here. I'm appealing to the family. Not I don't try when I talk when I go give speeches and stuff. I don't try to get into the public schools to talk to kids because public schools are afraid of black men like me. I don't try to go through corporations and organizations to speak to people because there's no reason for them to want to engage with someone like me. Even though I know what I'm talking about, my politics are probably a little bit weird for them. I'm going straight to the families. And I'm saying to you, when I talk about the black family as a multi-million dollar asset, I want you to look at the math right now. So Billy, Sally, and the siblings all went to go work for these corporations. Each of them is giving 40 hours of labor to some organization that is not connected to their family. Each of them, over the course of a working career, is going to give 100,000 hours of labor. If you value that labor and say let's say $40 an hour, that's $4 million a piece that they're donating to other people's institutions and not their own. And instead, in an ideal world, it would be the other way around. They would all be donating $4 million apiece to the family institution. Next thing you know, you got a multi-million dollar family. But in order for that to occur, you have to have specific skill sets, not the skill sets you get in school. They're not the skill sets you need to get a job, but the skill sets that are required in order for you to build and develop infrastructure. This is where those acronyms, in our kids program, we use POISE, producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. All those skills should be essential for every Black person that wants to be strong and have economic self-defense. Sturdy, what it means to build sturdy children, STERDY, systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation for the youth. If children are trained on those skills, if they're trained to keep their poise and you build sturdy children, then guess what? You have sturdy ass families, and sturdy families can keep their poise in a racist society. Sturdy families don't have to beg nobody for nothing. Sturdy families don't have to bend over. Sturdy families don't have to divide so they can be conquered. Sturdy families are not out here begging for jobs. Sturdy families are not compromising their principles. Sturdy families are not falling to the wayside in a very competitive society. In order for you to compete, you have to have a team. The Super Bowl is happening next week. My wife and I are going to Vegas for Super Bowl weekend. And in that Super Bowl, there's no team, there's no one that has ever won a Super Bowl that did not show up with a team. The San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs are going to show up as a team. Patrick Mahomes is a great player, but he cannot win without his team. He needs Travis Kelce, he needs Pacheco, he needs all of his teammates in order for him to have a chance to win that game. So in this game of economics, competitive economics, if you're going to win the Super Bowl of economics, you must show up with a team. Your team must be trained. They must be wearing the same uniform. You have to practice. You have to get everybody on code. Everybody knows their position. Everybody knows the plays. Everybody knows what they're doing, because if the Kansas City Chiefs show up and they're wearing different uniforms and everybody's going in different directions and nobody knows their position and nobody's loyal to the team, then they don't have a chance in hell of winning the Super Bowl, no matter how great Patrick Mahomes plays that day. Do you follow what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? Did I get the message across? I hope that you're hearing me. So question I ask you is, who is your team? And if you don't have a team, where are you going to find one? And if you do have a team, how are you going to get your team on code? Maybe you start by bringing them to class with you. You're welcome to bring anybody. Okay. All right. So anyway, that's it. I'm done. I hope this discussion was beneficial to you. We're going to do this again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you want to join the membership in the community and connect with other people, maybe find some teammates. We have a whole platform, B1 Nation, that's our social media platform that belongs to us. So you can go to drboycedaily.com. There's a special section of B1 Nation just for members of this training. So if you go to drboycedaily.com, you can sign up. That's drboycedaily.com. And on drboycedaily.com, the original massive discount of 75% off or something like that ended at midnight last night. However, you can still get 25% off if you go to drboycedaily.com. So feel free to join. And also with that membership, you get the recordings, you get the slides, you get access to the community. And then also every single morning, we're going to meet every morning and do this thing, do what we're doing right now. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And it was real. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care now. Bye-bye.